Long before written history, before dates, calendars, or recorded laws, human societies were already organized around power. These early communities did not call their leaders kings in the modern sense, yet authority existed all the same. Someone decided when to hunt, where to settle, and how to respond to threats. These decisions shaped survival itself. Chapter 1 begins in this shadowy age, where leadership emerged not from crowns or thrones, but from necessity. In prehistoric societies, leadership was deeply tied to survival skills. The strongest hunter, the wisest elder, or the one believed to communicate with spirits, often became the central figure of the group. Power was personal and immediate. A leader proved themselves every day through action, not through inheritance. If they failed to protect or provide, their authority quickly vanished. Spiritual belief played a crucial role in the rise of these early rulers. Nature was unpredictable and terrifying, so people searched for meaning in storms, droughts, and death. Those who claimed a special connection to unseen forces, shamans, priest leaders, or ritual specialists, gained immense influence. Over time, spiritual authority and political power merged, creating the earliest form of kingship. The sacred leader. As small tribes grew into larger communities, leadership slowly became more permanent. Villages needed coordination, food storage, defense, conflict resolution. Temporary war leaders evolved into long-term chiefs. These chiefs began to control resources, organize labor, and enforce rules. Power was no longer just about strength. It was about control and continuity. By the end of this era, the idea of kingship was taking shape, even though writing had not yet captured it. Authority was becoming inherited, sacred, and unquestioned. The first kings before history did not leave names or monuments, but they left something far more important: the foundation of rule itself. From this silent beginning, civilization's rulers would soon step into the light of recorded history. As human settlements expanded, leadership began to transform from a practical role into a sacred institution. These early communities no longer followed a leader only because of strength or wisdom. They followed because the leader was chosen by forces beyond the human world. This belief marked a turning point. Power was no longer just exercised, it was justified. In many prehistoric societies, rulers were seen as intermediaries between humans and the divine. They were believed to control rain, fertility, victory in war, and protection from disaster. When crops flourished or enemies were defeated, the leader's divine favor was confirmed. When famine or disease struck, rituals intensified, sacrifices increased, and the ruler's spiritual role became even more central. This period saw the rise of ritual kingship. The leader was not just a decision-maker, but a living symbol of order. Ceremonies, body markings, special clothing, and sacred spaces set rulers apart from ordinary people. Even without writing, memory and tradition preserved their authority. Stories passed down orally reinforced the idea that the ruler's bloodline was special, and their rule inevitable. Control of surplus food strengthened early kings further. Once agriculture allowed communities to store grain, those who managed storage controlled survival. The ruler decided who ate in times of scarcity and who went hungry. This economic power quietly replaced brute strength as the true foundation of rule. Obedience was no longer enforced by fear alone, but by dependence. As generations passed, power stopped changing hands through challenge or ability and began flowing through blood. Leadership was no longer something earned in a lifetime. It was something one was born into. This idea reshaped human society forever. The ruler's family became sacred, and the concept of the royal bloodline emerged long before crowns or thrones existed. To protect these bloodlines, early kings established boundaries. Land was no longer just shared territory. It became ruled space. Villages, fields, and rivers were claimed in the name of a leader whose authority extended beyond personal presence. This was the beginning of borders. Anyone living within them owed loyalty, labor, and obedience to the ruler at the center. Symbols of power also began to appear. While metal crowns came much later, early rulers used animal skins, carved staffs, painted bodies, and elevated seats to signal dominance. These symbols were not decoration. They were tools of control. They reminded people, visually and constantly, that the ruler stood apart from ordinary life. Violence now became organized. Instead of chaotic tribal conflict, kings commanded loyal warriors who fought not for survival alone, but for the ruler's authority. Warfare became political. Victory expanded power, while defeat threatened not just a leader's life, but the legitimacy of their bloodline. Asterisk. From tribes to early kingdoms by this stage, human societies were no longer small nomadic bands. Agriculture, domesticated animals, and permanent settlements had created the conditions for larger, more complex communities. The simple authority of a tribal leader was no longer enough. Early kings needed systems to govern growing populations, manage resources, and defend territories. This chapter explores the transformation from tribal leadership to the first recognizable kingdoms. The rise of early kingdoms relied on organization. Leaders had to oversee not just hunting or farming, but trade, labor, and construction. Walls were built to protect settlements, granaries stored surplus food, and councils of elders or advisors helped administer laws and resolve disputes. Kingship became both symbolic and practical. The ruler was a central figure in society, responsible for survival, order, and prosperity. Religion remained central to authority. Early kings often claimed divine ancestry or blessing. Temples, shrines, and sacred ceremonies reinforced their legitimacy. Kings were not just rulers of land. They were intermediaries between humans and gods, ensuring that the world remained in balance. Their decisions were seen as divinely guided, and their failures often explained through ritual correction rather than rebellion. Conflict and conquest defined this era. As kingdoms grew, they competed over fertile land, water, and trade routes. Military organization became more sophisticated. Soldiers were loyal to the king, and warfare was a means of expanding influence and consolidating power. Victory strengthened legitimacy, while defeat could threaten the stability of both throne and kingdom. Asterisk. The dawn of record-keeping and memory of kings. Even as kingdoms grew and authority became more formalized, there remained one major challenge: memory. Without writing, it was difficult to preserve the deeds, laws, and lineage of kings. Stories could be forgotten, battles misremembered, and authority questioned. This chapter explores how early rulers began to ensure their legacy would survive. Even before written history, oral tradition was the earliest form of record-keeping. Bards, storytellers, and priests memorized the deeds of kings, victories in battle, treaties, and laws. These narratives were repeated at rituals, feasts, and public gatherings, strengthening the ruler's authority and teaching people the rules of society. Legends blurred with history, but the effect was the same. Kings became immortal in memory. Monuments and symbols also played a role. Stones, carvings, and early temples acted as physical reminders of power. Even without inscriptions, the sheer scale of a construction project proclaimed the ruler's control over labor, resources, and organization. These monuments created a sense of permanence, making the authority of kings tangible and visible across generations. Early forms of proto-writing began to appear. Tokens, marks on clay, and pictographs allowed societies to track trade, harvests, and property, and indirectly, the ruler's wealth and influence. Though not yet true history, these records laid the groundwork for the first written chronicles of kings, ensuring that memory could survive beyond oral storytelling. Asterisk.